There it goes. It's gone all the way for 6. New Zealand finish in style. In 37 years in the making, New Zealand have their first ever one-day international series win in the Caribbean.
Kia ora everyone, welcome to another episode of Smith and Hesson. I'm Laura McGoldrick, and what a fabulous couple of weeks it has been for the Black Caps in the Caribbean. The West Indies taking out the ODI series, our first ever ODI series win over there, 2-1, and also the T20 trophy as well. Fantastic stuff. To break it all down today, very lucky girl to have with me Mike Hesson from Dunedin and Ian Smith from the Hawke's Bay. Fellas, how are you?
Very well, thanks, Laura.
Yes, Laura, keen to talk. Very keen to talk.
Oh, I love when you are keen to talk, Smithy. You know that, so I'll start with you. What did you make of the whole trip? Because all in all, you'd have to say, for the Black Caps, with the fact that we do have a T20 World Cup coming up and the ODI World Cup next year, it was a successful trip, do you think?
Yeah, I think they found some nice little things out about it. I think they'll all come home a little bit better for the experience of being there. Confidence-wise, yep, winning both those series, in particular the last run chase in the one-day international to chase down 300 and interesting conditions, I thought was a wonderful performance. And I think it just capped off what quite a confident unit they are in their ability to do things these days. So I think for Gary Stead, for Gavin Larson, who are looking to fill a few holes going into T20 World Cup, and, you know, in 12 months' time, they'll be looking at the 50-over version of the game. I think they found out some pretty interesting aspects of some of their players, confirmed a few things, and have found out that they're going to have to base a game around a lot more slow bowling than we have in the past due to conditions. And I think they're coming up with some nice options there. So I give it a definite pass mark, Laura, yeah.
What about you, Hess? What did you make of it all? I mean, we need to remember that actually that team has not played a lot of one-day cricket since that fateful 2019 World Cup final. I mean, I actually think that might have been one of Kane's first ODIs since that game.
Yeah, certainly been bereft of one-day opportunities. So, look, it was great to see. I thought the T20 side looks pretty convincing, really. I mean, Devon Conway played all the games at the top of the order. I thought it might have been a chance to have a look at Finn Allen, but they liked the idea of Conway at the top, and he's obviously performed well in recent times in the IPL. So that looks pretty settled at the top. That middle order's strong, and it's actually hard to fit everybody in. Glenn Phillips was exceptional, came in at different times throughout that T20 series where it obviously lost wickets, often lost a little bit of impetus, and he had to come in and he often attacked early. So rather than waiting and saving for the last 5, he often took the pressure off from about overs 10 to 15, which allowed the likes of Mitchell to get settled. Mitchell looked, to me, really settled in the middle order, and I think that's a role that we think he's certainly more familiar with than the top, and New Zealand have definitely got other options at the top, so that was good. Michael Bracewell was an interesting proposition there, another left-hander through the middle. Obviously, the ability with matchups to bowl to the left-handers is going to be helpful on those big grounds in Australia, so he'll definitely be an option. And I think Phillips himself will want to push his case from a bowling point of view, and then New Zealand have an option between whether they want to go with one or two of those guys. Satner was exceptional with the ball in terms of just being able to control the innings, being able to use an attacking way by both Kane and Tom. And our seamers, the likes of Tim and Trent, were both back to their best again with the white ball in hand. So some really good signs, but certainly showed we're probably going to miss Trent, obviously being the highest wicket taker again in that series.
Yeah, let's talk about that because, Smithy, I particularly can't wait to get your take on this. We made history over there for a lot of reasons, but Trent Boult, the first in New Zealand to rip up his New Zealand contract and say, you know what, I'm going to go and play around the world. I want more time at home with my family, and obviously there's some big money at play now around the world. Interesting for me, I thought that it was announced on the eve of the first game of the tour. That's tough, I think, for the team as a whole, quite distracting. There's a lot of hoopla around that. What did you make of his decision, and how do you feel about it?
Yeah, I thought the timing was interesting. I actually didn't mind the timing because he laid his cards on the table and he basically said to them, look, you know, this is what I want going forward. If you want to use me, that's fine. I'm happy to play for you when, my schedule, my calendar permits going forward, particularly like in T20 World Cups or whatever. But just get used to the fact that I'm doing this for Trent Boult and Trent Boult's family from here on in, giving you guys a long period of service at a pretty high level. But I feel like I'm coming towards the end of it, and I just want to maximise opportunities. And fast bowlers generally don't hang around as long as other particular parts of the game. So, I don't. Actually, I really don't regret or disagree with his decision. Actually, I regret it in the sense that we're not going to see him bowling a Test match for us ever again, by the sound of it, which I think is a great shame, because I think Southee and Boult have been our best ever fast bowling combination, and I say that having played with the Hadleys and the Chatfields of the world. I think this is the best combination we've ever had, and they've bowled in tandem brilliantly. Well, that will no longer be the case, so I'm going to be very sad there. But I don't begrudge him that opportunity. He's going to make a lot of money in a very short space of time. Already signing for the UAE. He will also be a marquee player in the BBL. He will not play in the Super Smash here. It just doesn't pay. And then he'll be able to pick and choose overseas with IPL, etc. He'll make, in the first part of next year, up until I would say about May, the thick end of a couple of $million US, I would think, minimum. So he's a high-priced commodity, and he's going to use himself as that going forward. I don't begrudge him that at all. Sorry, Laura, and it's just the way of the world, unfortunately.
It certainly is the way of the world. There's a lot of money and a lot of tournaments coming up, more and more. It's also the South African League we've seen pop up with some huge money being bandied around there. He's got 317 international test wickets, 177 ODIs, 63 T20 international wickets. I mean, he's had an extraordinary career, I guess, in what feels like a short space of time here, but actually it's been 12 years. If you look at his decision and you look at New Zealand cricket and their position of what they'll have to take here, yeah, I think Smithy's right. I don't think we'll see him play Test cricket again. But if you're Gary Stead, what are you thinking now? You're thinking, right, well, we've got a World Cup in October, a T20 World Cup, and you'd have to hope that, we could pick him for that. And then you've got the ODI World Cup in 12 months' time. Is he worried, do you think?
Well, I think as a coach, you can actually look at it in a positive way, in terms of you can almost lock Trent Boult aside and say, look, if we want him for these tournaments, we know he'll be up to speed, he'll be playing high competitive cricket, and we can bring him in without a huge amount of prep time. And therefore, it allows us other opportunities to look at our alternatives. So it actually gives us the best of both worlds. As I said, if he was just retiring, then obviously that's a huge missed opportunity. But the fact he'll be, as I said, up to speed, ready to call in at any time, I think is a good thing. And those big events he'll no doubt be highly motivated for. So, look, I remember taking Trent on a New Zealand A tour when he was 18. So he's been around for New Zealand 12 years. He's been around that scene for 14, potentially 15 years. So he's certainly earned the opportunity, I think, to maximise the next 2 or 3 years. Probably get through a whole IPL cycle, as Smithy's alluded to, BBL, UAE, South Africa potentially. I think you might have undersold him, Smithy. I think he'll be closer to 3.5 mil by the time you get round to May next year. So he's got an opportunity to set himself up for life after cricket. And, very few people have the ability to do that, especially in New Zealand. So, I wish him well. He's certainly never shirked the responsibility of playing all 3 forms for New Zealand. So I guess he deserves a bit of a retirement plan.
Another player who never has, and he never, I think, gets the credit he perhaps deserves, is Tim Southee. Now, over there, played very well, particularly in that second ODI. He was incredible with the ball, showing he has the ability to do well in all conditions. He was the only bowler to play in all 6 matches. He's got 100 plus T20 wickets, 300 tests, and almost 200. He's just 3 shy, I think, of 200 ODI wickets, making him, he would just be the 5th player to do that. Why doesn't he get the credit that perhaps sometimes Trent does? Is it because Trent's a little flashier? What is it that Tim has to do to get the recognition he probably deserves, do you think, Smithy?
Well, he's just not a higher priced commodity. I mean, Mike is the best guy to talk to, and we'll get to him shortly about this. But, I mean, these guys are commodities now, and you look at how you have your commodity and you fit them into your overall plan. And Trent Boult is a devastating strike bowler. He's the left armour as well. And he just is a different fit to Tim Southee, and that's why they complement each other so well. They're different bowlers in that regard. But Tim Southee has never been a highly priced IPL T20 player. I'm just, and for that reason, he's had to pick up the little crumbs when he, the $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 contracts as they've particularly come along, and he's been happy to do that. We've sung his praises for a long period of time now, Tim Southee. I'm quite sad, actually, that he probably won't get the financial gain out of the game that Trent Boult's going to for equal effort. But it's just the fact of the matter. He is just not that sought after in that regard. And he's a great warrior for us. He'll continue to be for a long time. He remains now, for me, the only candidate that could run Sir Richard Hadley's 431 wickets down. If he wants to preserve himself and make himself into a test bowler, whether we're going to play enough test cricket in the future to enable him to do that, I hope we do. But they're the kind of things, the kind of goals that Tim Southee is going to, have to set himself with. He's going to have to be a bit more selfish in that regard. But he just will not be, the way I see it, I'm going to make big fat checks out of playing T20 cricket going forward towards his retirement. I might be wrong there, I might be completely wrong, but you're in the business of the marketplace, and Tim Southee just doesn't hit it as hard.
Yeah, it's an interesting point. It is very much about that supply and demand, the left arm opening bowler versus the right arm seamer, who, there are a heck of a lot more, and the ability to swing the new ball. In terms of, most sides are aware of matchups these days. So in terms of the white ball, T20 in particular, the ability for the left arm to swing the ball into the right-handers is a huge asset, and one that pretty much every side around the world looks to get in their lineup. So, that's where Trent has that distinct advantage, probably 5Ks quicker when he's at his best as well. So he does it quicker. He's got that ability to angle the ball across, and he's got better at the death. So he's a ready-made package. I mean, to be fair to Tim Southee, the last 2 to 3 years, his T20 record has been exceptional, and he did very well, for KKR this year. So he probably deserves certainly more than what he currently gets. But as you said, Trent's got a bit of an advantage there, obviously bowling with the other arm.
Talk about his contribution, having coached him for a long period of time. We're used to seeing a lot of players take rests now. You never see that for Tim Southee. When it comes to playing for New Zealand, that's where he wants to be. What was it like to coach a player like that is going to go out every time and play so proudly for his country?
Well, he was certainly a guy that was really hard to talk to about a rest. He was one of those guys that, I guess, had some old values in terms of, never give a sucker an even chance. And he was always willing to play whenever. He was always willing to bowl at the tough ends. He often had to bowl into the wind and never complained. There's the odd sly remark here and there, having to do the donkey work, but he always stood up, wanted to do it. In terms of one-day cricket, I think he's probably got a new lease on life, because he's missed out on some opportunities with Matt Henry performing so well. And it's hard to fit all three of those guys in, because they're all, with Tim there, Matt Henry and Trent, they all really want the new ball, and that's probably where they're best equipped. So, he's missed some opportunities there. With Trent dropping out, that could well give Tim some further opportunities, but it doesn't quite give the side that same balance. We talk about the Boult-Southee combination, and Smithy talked about it again before in Test cricket, but, in white ball cricket as well. Most grounds around the world have that cross breeze. Most grounds, the ability for one to swing it away, one to swing it in. They just complement each other so well. So Tim might well get some more opportunities, but and he's probably going to have to lead that attack now with Trent missing.
We talk about people taking their opportunities. Glenn Phillips, he's played in the Caribbean a lot. I think he's played 4 or 5 years at the CPL, so he knows those conditions very well. He was consistent, I think, throughout both series, the T20s and the ODIs. What did you make of his performance, Smithy?
I like him. I like Glenn Phillips in white ball cricket. I really do. I think he's innovative. I think he's brave. He takes a gamble. He's got all those attributes that T20 cricket needs as a batsman, because at some point you have to pull the trigger, and he's prepared to pull the trigger early on. I also like the fact that he's got that attitude. If you're 2 for not many and he comes out, he's still going to play the Glenn Phillips way. I think that's a good thing to have, and because it's the nature of the game. And I do also believe he's got raw power, and he's got that unpredictability from a bowling point of view. He's still relatively new on the block. People will still be doing their homework on Glenn Phillips. And those innovations that he can spring on bowlers, established bowlers, are an asset to you when you're trying to build a total. and I think he's got the ability to not just to clear the ropes, to close innings off. I think he's quite a complete T20 player, actually. As Mike alluded to before, he needs to work a little bit on. I'm not saying he's a 4-over bowler, but he might be a 1-over bowler, a 2-over bowler. It doesn't have to be a 4-over bowler. He's brilliant in the field, and if worst comes to the worst, he can wicket keep as well. I think he's the perfect T20 cricketer in this New Zealand side at the moment, and to bat where he is, at some stage, I think he'll be adept enough to perhaps jump from 4 to 3 when that opportunity exists on a full-time basis, because I think by that stage he'll be a lot more mature, experienced player in this form of the game. Glenn Phillips, a real plus for me at the moment.
Oh, and the enthusiasm that man brings to the game, it's infectious. You want to see that in your team. And I tell you what, he played the most outrageous shot that I think the whole world was talking about for a period there. Let's take a look at it.
What a shot that is from Glenn Phillips. Oh, that's special, that's innovative, that's 6.
I think the ability to know exactly what the situation is when you come in and being able to back your skill set. For me, I know if I can clear the ropes, then I don't have to necessarily worry about dot balls too much. It gives me the freedom to be able to work the ball around in the middle overs. And when we've got such a strong tail lineup, we've got Nish to follow, Satna, now Beast as well. It really gives you the confidence to be able to express yourself right through the middle.
Smithee, did you like that shot he played? How would you have commentated that, do you reckon?
I don't know how I'd commentate that because I've never seen it before. It would have caught me by surprise, Laura, and I'd probably have got it completely and utterly wrong. But it's just an example. I mean, I go back. Remember when Brendan played those scoop shots at, was it Jade Stadium against the Australians?
Yeah.
We didn't quite know what the heck was going on in life at that point, and now it's run-of-the-mill cricket. So it'll be the Glenn Phillips shot for a while until someone grabs it and does a little bit more with it. He's a Glenn Maxwell type player for me. He's got that X factor that you just don't quite know as the bowler's running in what he's thinking, because perhaps he doesn't know what he's thinking himself. It's all instinctive. It's quite a beautiful thing, to be fair. And the other thing we've got to be very careful about is, of course, is how often Kane is going to be playing for us. Kane Williamson, we haven't talked about that yet, but, if Kane isn't in there, we're going to have to find another top player, or top 3 or 4 player, to perhaps play some one-day cricket for us. And maybe he's deserving of the chance, if that's the case, to be first cab off the rank. We'll see.
Well, let's talk about Kane now. So another injury meant that he didn't play the last 2 matches of the ODI series. He played the T20s. It was nice to see him spend some time in the middle. But it is concerning that it feels like seeing less and less of Kane as we go along now due to these injuries. It wasn't the elbow this time. I think it was a tight quad. Are we worried about him?
Oh, look, I think we are, but I think Gary Stead and the team have moved on in terms of it's a major bonus when Kane's available, and hopefully will be for the majority of the summer. Injuries do happen, but you have to allow for that. And I think New Zealand now has created enough depth to be able to cater for Kane missing. They're obviously a far better side when Kane's playing. There's no doubt about that. But yeah, I mean, if we have to replace Kane in one-day cricket with a Glenn Phillips, someone like a Tom Latham certainly has the ability to slot up to 3, and Glenn can go into that middle order where he's probably best positioned. So, I think we have to plan for life after Kane and just really love the times when he's available. And hopefully he's through the worst of that injury. That elbow, obviously is not as bad as it was 6 months ago. Played really nicely in the first T20 and played some shots that we all love to see, especially that one over long off where, he can only really play that if he doesn't have any pressure in that elbow to be able to extend that front arm. So, look, he looked like he was getting back to his best. Didn't get a major score, but he actually looked in decent touch.
Smithee, is now the time to start talking again? I mean, there's so much chat around the pressures of being captain, especially the pressures of being captain in all 3 formats. Is now the time to start to go back and look to preserve Kane in all 3 formats if he chooses to continue playing all 3? Is it a good time to start maybe looking at that split captaincy option again? Could you have 3 captains for all 3 formats?
Yeah, I'm not sure you'd have 3. I think if Kane was to play 2 out of the 3, he'd be captain in both of them. I like to think that he's going to be able to pace himself through, but I'm getting used to the fact that he's not going to be there 100% of the time, where I was always expecting that. So, look, we're living now without Ross Taylor, and we're starting to have to live without Kane Williamson. The thing that crosses my mind, and Hess, you might have a theory on this, is just as Trent Boult has gone across and said, look, this is the way I want to end my career, my future. What if Kane Williamson was the batting version of that from our point of view? I mean, at the moment, Kane is quite a high price in the IPL. I would imagine if people in the new leagues that are cropping up were looking for top order players who were going to be reliable and available to them the whole time, Kane Williamson would be relatively high on their agenda. I wonder how that would be received as opposed to how Trent Boult has gone from a New Zealand point of view, from a selector point of view and from the public's point of view, if Kane was to go that way.
Yeah, it's an interesting point because, I guess Kane's missed so much cricket the last couple of years that, he's had that rest, that chance to refresh, that chance to spend time at home. So you're right, it is a slightly different kettle of fish there. And I'm not so sure, that the role that Kane plays is as well sought after in the leagues as the role that Trent plays. At the moment, Kane's on an exceptional contract, having been retained by SRH. And this year will be a really big decision for them whether they look to retain him, because if they do, then that's probably Kane's retirement package right there. So they're slightly different because there's a lot more overseas batsmen who can bat in the top three and play that type of role. Maybe not quite as well as Kane when he's at his best, but Kane hasn't had the best of 12 months. And to be fair, a lot of franchises don't look too much further back than 12 months. They're after guys that are in form and playing nicely. So I think if Kane was to have a really good World Cup again, then that'll probably take care of the next cycle or two for him. But yeah, I don't think Kane will be looking at that, to be honest. I think, as you alluded to, Trent's been in that all three forms for a long time. The life cycle of a quick bowler is nowhere near as long, and Trent's hasn't missed a huge amount. He's missed the odd series here and there, but not as much as Kane has the last couple of years.
Let's talk about Michael Bracewell. We saw him play. We talked about him after the England tests. He did a good job. We saw him what he can do in the T20 format and actually the ODIs when the Netherlands were touring New Zealand end of last year. Do they fit him in? How do they fit him in? Is he good enough to stay in the side, do you think, Ian Smith?
Well, I think, yeah, he's good enough to be in the mix. I think he's good enough to be in the 12 or 13 you look at for every game in all conditions. He's proven to be a match winner, an exceptional match winner, albeit against an associate nation as such. But, he hasn't played a lot of international cricket, so you've got to put that alongside that. He looks a seasoned cricketer because he's come into the mix late. He's a Bracewell, so he's competitive. We know that. He's also got really good all-round skills, and the spin bowling side of it will get better and better the more cricket that he plays. And he's flexible too in where he can bat. He bats high in the order, and domestically he bats a little bit lower down for New Zealand. But what he does is he adds to the competitive nature of that all-round spot that we've got. It was just really Mitchell Santner's spot. And now we've got another guy who's in there who can do a comparative job. Nice to have another slow bowling option, not necessarily bowl 10, but if along with someone like Mitchell or Neesham, whatever, they could get 10 between them, it just frees up the balance of your side. So for me, Bracewell has been one of the pluses, alongside for me as Glenn Phillips. I think he's a player for the future because they've brought him in at exactly the right time in his cricketing life.
It sort of reminds me a little bit of what you did with Colin de Grandhomme, to be honest, actually, Mike Hesson, bringing him in. He's played a lot of cricket and he knows his game very well. How do you rate his tour, the European tour obviously as well, but ending in the West Indies?
Well, he's certainly enhanced his reputation, and he's played a number of different roles. He came in at 5, 6, 7, which are difficult roles to play for someone who's trying to establish themselves. Had an exceptional tour of Ireland. His bowling definitely got better. I think he's very much a batsman who bowls, whereas Mitchell Santner is obviously the opposite, really. And I think those two in tandem actually work really nicely. As I said, the ball spinning away from both left and right-handers if required. Obviously, generally you have a big side of the field, so you obviously want the ball to be hit to those pockets. So you've got the ability to do that when you have those two in the side. two left-handers who are playing nicely. Mitch Satner was very good with the bat again. Well, not again. I think he showed some really good signs with the bat over the last couple of months, which is important that he did that. And so he shows his all-round capabilities. But Michael Bracewell's got power. He's got genuine brute power. I mean, they call him the Beast for a reason, and that's because he can just attack and he can take down any attack. I'd like to see him do it against some high-quality sides, and he just hasn't had that chance yet. But I think he's earned the opportunity to show us how good he is. And I think Gary Stead and Tom Latham, Kane Williamson, they'll be absolutely delighted that they've got another player there that at the moment they go with Neesham for that seam bowling all-rounder. They've actually got the opportunity to completely swap that and go with Bracewell. And he can be that, that part-time bowler who can finish with a bat. Because there'll be times where they can't play both. They might have to choose one or the other. So really good options.
Finn Allen, has he done enough in your mind, Ian Smith? He's so agonisingly close to his first ODI 100 against the West Indies. I mean, the poor boy, he worked so hard in what were some very trying conditions. I mean, no one else, I think, got over 20, really, except for Daryl Mitchell. Do you think Finn Allen did enough to earn his shot at having a go against some other opposition?
Yes, I do. We've got to keep Finn Allen in the mix, and we've got to keep giving him more and more opportunities. Because they, out of natural progression and the way that players come and go, I think he deserves an opportunity. He's had a taste of the IPL, not a lot of cricket, but he's had a taste of mixing with superstar players, and he knows, I think, what it's going to take to become one himself. He looks a good player to me, Finn Allen, and it gets back to the original point that we made about the success of this group of tours that they've just undergone. Most of the players that have been and gone over there and come back, or are on the way home, have enhanced their reputations, and he's another one of that nature. I reserve my judgment. I'd like to see him get an opportunity or two against Australia and Darwin. If he comes through that, then that'll be fantastic, as I do Bracewell, as I do a number of the other players who have not dominated Australia in white ball cricket. So I would like to think that Finn Allen will be part of the mix going over there. And he looks a pretty damn good player. But, Mike, again, he's been on Mike's books.
Yeah, I mean, we locked him away a couple of years ago with RCB because he's such an amazing ball striker. And the beauty of that 96 was that we didn't really see that because New Zealand were 3 for 30. Finn was 20 off 20 balls, and then basically not that he struggled, he just created partnerships after that and played a role that we haven't seen him play yet, especially at that level. So that's what was so pleasing, was the maturity that he showed in a situation that's not familiar with. The old style of I just play my way, he couldn't do that because the side was in trouble and he needed to resurrect the innings and get a score that New Zealand could defend, which ultimately they did. And that played a huge part in New Zealand winning that series. So absolutely delighted for Finn. I was surprised in many ways he didn't play a T20 because I think at the moment that's still his best format. But I think the way that they introduced him into the ODIs, I guess they want to stick with Guptill Conway and probably see that as being the lineup for the World Cup and wanted to get some games into those two, which is fair enough. But I still think that T20 is his best format. But an exciting talent, just an exciting top order talent, which is we've got plenty of middle order ones, but it's nice to have a top order one too.
We're going to a super over.
It is time for the super over now. 6 even quick fire questions, because that's how many balls are in an over, funnily enough. I don't know if you know that. I don't know if you know, but there's 6 balls in an over. Here is the first. Smithy, we'll start with you. The last time we won an ODI series in Australia?
The last time we won an ODI series in Australia would have been last century.
Okay, what about you, Hess? What do you reckon?
I'm going to go 1987.
We've never won an ODI series in Australia.
Okay, well, it's definitely, yeah, okay.
So there's a few work-ons for this trip over there. Who are the biggest threats to the Black Caps from Australia in your mind, Ian Smith?
Right, okay. David Warner, Aaron Finch, Marnus Labuschagne, Steve Smith. Josh Hazelwood, Mitchell Stark, Pat Cummins, Matthew Wade. Have I left anyone out? Is that 11?
I think
They're all threats. They're all threats.
Stoinis maybe?
Stoinis?
Oh, Stoinis is there, chuck him in. They're all threats, just by the by. They're all match winners.
Do you agree with that, Hes?
It's pretty hard to go past it. I guess that's why they're the world champions, isn't it?
T20s. But just wait till the end of this year. Hopefully that'll all be different. All right, question 3. Who are the key players for the Black Caps? Ian Smith.
Martin Guptill, no pressure there. Has to show his experience and front up against a really good new ball Australian attack. So the top order, it's the top 3, and that brings Conway into play as well. Williamson, of course. And we'll just see if Daryl Mitchell can do it against Australia in 50 over cricket as well. That for me, I mean, because the essence is runs, and to score runs, we have to start very, very well. That's the key to me. Our batters at the top, their bowlers.
Hes?
Yeah, well, I'll just add Mitchell Satner to that in terms of being able to take wickets through the middle. Dan Vettori was exceptional for us in terms of being able to challenge that Australian middle order. We need to get wickets through the middle. If we don't, we'll find it difficult at the back end.
So if you could pick one key player for Australia that we need to target, obviously maybe we get his wicket early, I don't know, I hope he gets injured before the series starts. Smithee, who is it for you?
David Warner.
Hes?
I'm going to go Glenn Maxwell.
Oof, okay. All right. Do you see any weaknesses in that Australian side at all, Ian Smith?
Oh, I hear they hate playing in Darwin.
Perfect. We've got 3 games there. Hopefully that doesn't mean we'll hate it too.
I don't see any, Laura. I don't. Quickfire. I don't. You can give me 2 hours and I'd struggle to find a weakness.
That's what I'm looking for, Smithy.
I'm sorry.
I'm looking for their weaknesses in a few. Have you got anything for me, Hes?
Oh, I think if we can get the ball to swing up front, which I think we will in Darwin, I think we can make some early inroads. So definitely get the ball swinging with Boult and Southee and, well, not Boult because he won't be there, Henry and Southee. And it just depends who else they go with. But I think we can make early inroads, and if we do that middle order, expose that to a swinging ball, we've got a chance. So,
Smithee, seeing as you're super positive about the tour, should I ask for your prediction for the series?
Look, I think Australia 2-1. There you go. I think we might nip one off them. It might be the last one, though. There might be the dead rubber game, but I just think it's a big step up. Even though we've been playing a lot of cricket, it's a massive step up. And our record over there, it doesn't matter which piece of dirt it is in Australia, has not been that flash. It's a bit of a mind over matter thing. But as I say, if we win one, I'll be happy.
Hess?
Look, I think that we've been creating history in recent times, Laura. So I'll say it's a 2-1 win to New Zealand.
Oh,
not quite sure how, but there's a little bit of heart overhead there. But yeah, you never know.
I'm not sure how.
Australia haven't played a lot of cricket in recent times, Laura. So we're obviously coming off the back of plenty. Australia have had a good break, so hopefully we get one early, and then you never know. There is some footage of Adam Zampa taking the T20 World Cup trophy for a swim. They put it in a Perspex box and they took it underwater. And I thought at that point, right, somebody has got to take that thing off them. They can't have that anymore. It's got to go. We're going to have to take it off them. Ian Smith, Mike Hesson, I want to thank you so much for your time today. You are wonderful. Thank you for your thoughts, and we'll catch up after the Australian series.
Cheers, Laura.